What makes a movie rewatchable? Have you ever sat down to watch something, scrolled through hundreds of movies on every streaming platform, only to pick something you've already seen before? Why watch something new when you can watch something familiar and that you know you're going to enjoy? Maybe you revisit a film from time to time because there's layers to it, and with each watch you gain new perspective, giving you even more appreciation for a film you already love. A film's rewatchability relies heavily on a number of different factors. There's so many great movies that I've enjoyed but have never rewatched. But why is this? Let's dive in and see if we can find out. This might sound obvious, but we often gravitate towards things that are familiar to us, whether it's the food we like, music we enjoy, or movies that we love. It's nice to watch a film you've already seen because there's no surprises. From the moment you put it on, you know exactly who the characters are, when the best jokes are going to happen, how everything is going to play out, and that you're going to enjoy watching it. It could be due to watching a certain movie as a kid that inspired you. Maybe it was a film you saw during a challenging time in your life and it helped you escape, or one that you just associate with having a good time. The interesting thing about comfort movies is they don't necessarily have to be comforting films. I absolutely love rewatching Hot Rod because it's hilarious and mindless, but on the flip side, I also find Cloverfield to be a super comforting movie because it had a huge influence on me when I was younger. These films are completely opposite in both genre and tone, but give me that same familiar, comforting feeling. I have an attachment to them, and every time I see them again, that attachment grows even more. Looking at the film industry as a whole shows us just how much we crave familiarity. Think about all the remakes, reboots, spin-offs, and sequels the industry puts out, and how well many of them do. They know audiences that love a certain film or franchise will come out to see it because it's familiar. That's why we have 10 Fast and the Furious movies and a spin-off. Sometimes seeing all these sequels and remakes can be a bit annoying, but from time to time there's one that comes out that gets you excited. I can't deny how happy I was just a few months ago when the first teaser for the new Beetlejuice movie released and Michael Keaton rose from the little model town and said, "The juice is loose." It felt like running into a friend that you haven't seen in a long time. There's also movies like Barbie that used an iconic toy that's loved by millions and people flock to the theaters to see it because the brand and toy means so much to them. It's not a coincidence that movies that are familiar and comfort us are the ones we always go back and rewatch. We also tend to revisit films that have layers to them. I remember watching Shutter Island when I was around 13 or 14 years old and being so surprised by the film's twist. I was absolutely fascinated by it and rewatched it several times, trying to pick up on every little detail that foreshadows the ending. We often go back to these types of movies because we're curious about the moments that we might have missed on a first watch. It's also really fun to rewatch these types of films with others who haven't seen them because you know the twist and they don't. This can lead to new discussions about what the film means, and they might pick up on details you never even noticed, bringing a whole new perspective to a film you might have thought you had figured out. I remember walking out of the theater after watching Midsommar with a buddy in college, and both of us were not only in utter disbelief, but also attempting to dissect the film's message and what was really at the core of it. Every time I rewatch Midsommar, it feels like I pick up on something I never even realized was there. There's so many examples like this, and when filmmakers add little details, clues, and even just fun Easter eggs, it really adds to their rewatchability. Movies with layers tend to make you think deeply about them. There's certainly movies that are less layered and still make you think, but more times than not, there's going to be some depth to these types of movies. An example that's become pretty classic in this category is Inception. I've seen it several times, and there's still aspects of it that make my head hurt. It does a really good job at not only making you think about the overall idea of someone else being able to enter your dreams to steal information from you, but also raises questions about the mechanics of the dreams, if the main character Cobb was dreaming the whole time, and what reality actually is. It's a lot more complex than I made it sound, but like I said, even 14 years later after its release, I still don't fully understand the movie, and this is exactly why people continue to rewatch the film and discuss it to this day. Another element that I find important to a film being rewatchable is how great the experience itself is. There's several comedies that I go back to, such as The Other Guys, The Big Lebowski, Pineapple Express, and Talladega Nights, just to name a few. There's certainly that familiar feeling with these movies, but they also provide an experience that's enjoyable the whole way through, and the comedy in these movies provide exactly the type of experience I want from a comedy movie. Even though I know every single punchline in these films, I can't help but laugh every time I see them. Then there's movies like Mad Max Fury Road, John Wick, and Dread that provide an intense, action-packed ride that I can't help but love. Take any of the John Wick movies. The story itself is super simple, but all the crazy set pieces, shootouts, fight sequences, and over-the-top action create an experience that's worth revisiting because it's just so dang cool. Even the most mindless films can have certain elements that are worth going back to because they create an experience that you can't get anywhere else. There have been countless movies that I've seen only once and absolutely loved, but have never gone back to. Now, of course, some of these movies I'm about to mention could certainly be rewatchable to someone else. For example, I thought Manchester by the Sea was an incredible film, but I have no desire to go back and watch this one. It's an absolutely heartbreaking movie and extremely tough to get through, and there's nothing here that I would want to see again. The experience of watching it for the first time was so powerful that I would rather just leave it at that. There's a lot of other movies that have impacted me in a similar way, whether it's uncut gems that created such a heavy, anxiety-ridden feeling, or threads that had me questioning every life decision I've ever made. For me, movies like this I'm happy with only seeing once, and even though I won't return to them, I still think they're excellent films. Now, it doesn't only have to be films that impact you in these kinds of ways that you don't want to rewatch. It could even be a ridiculous movie that you just had a great experience watching, and you know if you rewatch it, it will completely ruin that. I saw the film Rampage with a buddy in college, and we had an absolute blast watching this movie on the big screen. I know it's not a great movie, and probably not even a semi-good movie, but the memory I have with it is great, and I don't want that to be ruined by revisiting the film. So even though these movies I've mentioned offered me a unique experience, those experiences aren't enough to rewatch them because I don't associate any of them with familiarity or comfort. Plus, for me, there's no layers in these films that I have a desire to go back and search through like I did with Shutter Island, for example. I'm not saying there aren't layers in these films because there certainly are, but it's not the kind that I'm personally intrigued by. You can still consider a movie great, even if you don't go back and rewatch them. A film's rewatchability is heavily based on your own connection, experience, and overall enjoyment of a film. If a movie is familiar, comforting, and has layers to it that make you think deeply about it, then you're more likely to rewatch it. It doesn't matter if it's considered by the masses to be a great film, as long as it's one that checks all the boxes for you. That's what makes movies as a whole so special. They impact us all in different ways and have the ability to pull us back to them time and time again. It's always a great feeling sitting down and putting on one of your favorite movies and just enjoying the ride. I'm very curious to hear what films you always go back and rewatch. Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like and consider subscribing. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.